we are in the childhood home of President Woodrow Wilson, and he was the 28th President of the United States. He served 2 terms. His campaign slogan was a new freedom, individual rights, and state rights. Mr. President, I just wanted to reiterate some of the things you already know about the Constitution. We know that the United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land. It establishes the form of government, the rights, the liberties of the American people. It made the U.S. a nation, a symbol of unity, a shield of democracy for all the Americans to govern themselves as a free people. The Constitution of the United States was drafted at the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, signed September 17, 1787, ratified by the United States June 21st, 1788. It superseded the Articles of Federation, the first constitution to organize the United States in 1781 through 1789. The American Civil War began April 12, 1861, and it lasted 4 years. 600,000 people died in that war. Abraham Lincoln became president in 1861. The Emancipation Proclamation, the end of slavery, was 1863. The Constitution contains a preamble and 7 articles. The preamble reads, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." And it also includes 27 amendments. The first 10 are called the Bill of Rights. James Madison is considered the father of the Constitution. Woodrow Wilson, you, my sir, is the 28th President of the United States, and we know that you were nominated in 1912. The campaign is called New Freedom, Individual Rights, and State Rights. The 3 Georgia signers of the Constitution were Button Gwinnett, Jill Walton, Lyman Hall. Let's look at the Declaration of Independence. Give me 1 minute, I find Mr. President. The Declaration of Independence, action of the Second Continental Congress, July 4th, 1776. When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth to the separate and equal station to which the law of nature and nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute a new government, laying its foundation on such principles, and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate the government long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And here we know that it's saying that human events becomes necessary for the political bands to dissolve themselves between each other. And it relates to the power of the earth and that of nature. For man want to be free. That's what it's saying to me. And it said it's self-evident that all men are created equal, empowered by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and of usurpations, presuming invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for the future security. Such has been the patient sufferance for these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former system of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over the states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused the access to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden the governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless these people would relinquish the rights of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. So here they're saying to me that evils are sufferable, meaning that the evil exists in this world, then we should do something for ourselves to correct this problem. And it says that when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, which is our freedom, is designed to reduce the despotism, meaning that there is power in that Lord who controls that power. And so it says, the suffering of these colonies, such is now the necessity which constrained them to alter their system of government. So here it is saying the colonies are forced to alter their system of government. They no longer can live under these conditions. And says that he has called themselves together, legislative bodies, at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measure. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with many firmness his invasion on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time, after such desolation, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislature power, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the main time exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of the United States for these purposes, obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migration hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of land. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing to assent to laws for establishing judicial powers. He has made judges independent of his will alone for the tenure of their office and appointed and payment of their salary. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislature. He has effected the render to military independence of the superior to the civil powers. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving the assent of their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by mock trial, for punishment for any murder which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off their trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us, in many cases, of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried and pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing them in an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it as once an example of fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rules into these colonies, for taking away our charter, abolishing our most valuable laws, altering fundamentally the forms of our government, for suspending our own legislature and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravished our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign missionaries to complete the work of death, desolation, and tyranny already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages and totally unworthy of the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against this country, to become executioner of the friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has executed domestic insurrection among us. He has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontier the merciless Indian savage, which known rules of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sex, and condition. In each stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petition have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose charter is thus marked by every act which may define each other is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have it been waiting to the attention to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by the legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connection and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voices of justice, of consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation, and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace and friends. We therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress, assemble appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, due in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these United States are and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiances to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as a free and independent state, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliance, establish commerce, and to do all other things which independent states may of the right do, and for the support of these declarations, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. So, Mr. President, I read before you the Declaration of Independence, and I hope we have established some understanding. Thank you for your time, and I have to get on back, and I'm sure you're a busy man. I'll see you around. Thank you. Oh, yes, ma'am. Okay, we ready to go? Yes, ma'am. Okay, here we go. We through.
Okay. Do you know Clarence Thomas?
No, I don't know him, but I know who he is.
He went to school with my husband.
He did?
Yeah, he came here.
To Augusta, for the opening of the...
Yeah, but he came right here to the Wilson house.
You kidding?
Yeah, I gave him a tour of the Wilson house.
You kidding?
Yeah, and then he went over to my house for barbecue.
You kidding?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was
My
great.
husband knew him in high school.
Oh.
We all went to the St. John's Vienna Seminary down in Savannah.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because he's from some little part down there, Pinpoint, Georgia. Yeah, I saw that article. Yeah.
Well, they went to a Catholic seminary for high school.
Oh,